Welcome to 100 Yards of Football, the Sports Talk Radio. This is your basketball segment today. I'm your host, Bryan Spencer, head men's basketball coach at Carver College here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm being welcomed today by royalty. Some of y'all may not recognize the face. Some of you young bucks may not recognize the face, but those old heads like me, and we recognize this face very well. 1990 McDonald's All-American, 1990 second team parade All-American, starting point guard for the 1993 national champion UNC Tar Heels that beat the legendary Fab Five out of Michigan, and also the 2001 German League MVP, and the current associate head coach at Washington State, Coach Derek Phelps. Coach, how you doing today, man?
Man, doing good, man. Just maintaining.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now I know the time out there is a little different. You on the West Coast, the time out there is a little different. I didn't hit you too early this morning, did I?
Oh, no, not at all, man. It's just early for me.
Right, right. So, we get up early and get it going early. So, listen, Coach, I want to get right to it, man. You when I look at you, man, I think about you, man, and I look at your history. I mean, all I see is winning. I mean, you started with a storied program at Christ the King in Queens, New York. Then went on to another legendary program, of course, with North Carolina. What's it like growing up in New York and going to a school like Christ the King, and a school that's produced, some of the best WNBA players, Sue
Mhm.
Bird and Tina Charles and Shimmy Holdsclaw, and then some very accomplished uh, players as well. Yourself, Khalid Reeves, Lamar Odom, Omar Cook, Speedy Claxton, maybe some names people don't understand. What's it like coming out of that heritage and then moving on to North Carolina? What was that like?
Just period. And growing up in New York City, man, just very competitive. Just even in my own neighborhood, you have to compete just to if you want to be good. And I think the biggest thing with me growing up is just I always want to play with the older guys that kind of just went at me, beat me down.
Right,
So see if I was going to get back up and compete and fight back. And I think me growing up in Queens, I think that kind of helped me a lot to grow as a player and just learning the game from just the older guys. I think you always got to follow your history of the guys that was ahead of you and
right,
learn from them. And I think that just helped me, brought me up to like, and just to be a winner.
right,
I just always wanted to win, man. I will do not just do anything. I sacrificed a lot to win.
right,
I think I could have scored a lot of points myself in my career in high school, college, and I just sacrificed myself, man, and just play defense, floor general, get guys the ball,
right,
did all the little things that make teams win, and I think
right.
that's made my career so successful.
One of your former teammates, uh, Brian Reese, actually said, I heard him say that. He said, you may not see it on the stats, you may not score points, but without question, Derek Phelps is our guy. So when you hear stuff like that, and that's the guy that you competed against
Yep.
uh, in high school,
Yeah,
right?
shit, he had a big time program. He played in high school, St. Nicholas of Talentine, and great talent on that team with him, Adrian Autry,
Right,
Malik Sealy.
right,
So rest in peace. But like I said, New York City back in late '80s to '90, man, was very competitive
right.
for sure.
Now we had Kenny Anderson on not too long ago, and he talked about in the summers going against Rod Strickland and Mark Jackson. Um, who are some of the guys that you go against, like uh, when you would come home from Carolina? Who are some of the guys that you go play against, or did you play against Kenny Anderson and them guys?
Yeah, Kenny Anderson was definitely one of the main guys I played against all the time because we played the same position. Uh, guys that I mentioned, Adrian Autry, guys like Jamal Mashburn,
Right,
uh, a kid you probably won't know about, very good player, Rich Ashmead, uh, Robert Phelps, that went to Nazareth, ended up going to Providence. Tough. He was like one of the big time scorers in the state of New York.
right,
So, we had a bunch of guys, man, in that era. And even my own teammate in high school, Khalid Reeves,
right, right,
was another guy that I had to compete against every day just to just to be good. And like if you didn't compete, you get swallowed up.
Right, right. So now you leave Christ the King, and you play in the All American McDonald's All American game, and
Hmm.
you had two other teammates on that team, Eric Montrose and Bryan Reese. So going into Carolina, you had to have an idea that you guys were going to be special. When you first hit the court as a freshman at Carolina, when did you realize that you guys had something special?
And let me add one more guy to that list was Clifford Rozier
Oh yeah,
also
yeah,
came with us too as freshman year, even though he left after his freshman year at Carolina. But yeah, we was kind of waiting on Montrose to commit at that time because he took a long time. He was the last guy to commit to Carolina, and people don't notice, but we came in as five guys as well, just like the
okay,
Fab Five came in.
right,
So it was me, Bryan Reese, Eric Montross, Clifford Rozier, and Pat
right,
Sullivan,
right,
another
right,
guy from the East Coast, New Jersey, and we was kind of heralded like not the Fab Five, but five guys that's going to be winning a
right.
lot at Carolina. And I just think Dean Smith just kind of did it different. He didn't allow us to speak to the media as freshmen, so it kind
Oh
of got
really?
played. Yeah, yeah. It's like any freshman that comes in, we don't speak to the media as much, especially early on and before the season starts. So it wasn't as much hype the way the Fab Five actually happened. But just being around those guys and always being together and learning that hey, we got all different type of guys and different type of players too. So like Montrose
Right.
is true center. I was the point guard. We got Bryan Reese as the wing, leaper, jumper, attack mode.
Yeah. Right.
And Pat Sullivan was more like the stretch four guy that could put it on the floor. And Clifford Rozier just played all over the place. So
Right.
and so we had a great chemistry and we always stayed together as a unit. So that what made us good during our careers in college.
Now let me ask you this, because our routes are kind of similar. I grew up in Syracuse, um, which y'all call it the country and boondocks. you know, but then when I graduated high school in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and so you migrated down to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, as a collegiate player. And I've always gotten to these conversations about the Big East and the ACC, and man, you know, and they say I'm partial because I'm from New York, but as a coach, we're impartial, and I just speak what I really feel. I just feel like, and I want to get your opinion on this. I want to know, have you ever seen another conference have the impact on college basketball as the Big East did in like that '80s period?
Nah,
Because
I
mind
was
you,
a
now they put three teams in the Final Four,
uh, I
and I
was a
think they had
big
four in the Final Eight.
yeah, I was a big Big East conference guy. So
Right,
me being from Queens, my team was St. John's, of course.
right.
And back then I used to love Chris Mullin, Walter Berry,
That's very, yeah,
Willie Glass,
yeah,
Shelton
yeah,
Jones,
yeah,
all those guys back then. And like I tell you the truth, I kind of wanted to go to St. John's,
okay,
but they didn't really recruit me
okay,
because they already brought in a point guard the year before, David Kane at the time.
right.
And so they kind of like eliminated me from coming, but Syracuse recruited me
I was gonna
strong.
say Bayheim didn't even let you go.
Yeah, yeah, strong. I actually visit Syracuse, and I also love Seton Hall. Seton Hall recruited me at the time with PJ Calissimo as the head coach,
Right,
and Providence College at the time was recruiting me as well, where Rick Pitino was there in the early
right,
stages.
right.
But when Rick Pitino ended up going to Kentucky then, so he kind of recruited me at Kentucky at the time as well.
Mhm.
So, but Big East was big strong back then, man. You wasn't really thinking about ACC coming from the East Coast, coming from the New
Right,
York area. So your
right.
big deal was, and I was a big fan of Georgetown.
Yeah,
So think about it, with Patrick Ewing, the Reggie Williams, the Michael Jacksons. I
right,
used to love that team.
right.
I used to always wear those Hoya colors all the time too. So
Everybody did.
Yeah, so it was big for me, man. Love John Thompson as the coach too. So Big East was big time back in those days, for sure. So back then the conference was really strong.
Right. So what was the separator? What you said Syracuse came at you hard, you know,
Yep.
and my father coached at Syracuse, so I'm a huge Syracuse fan. What was the determining factor that made you choose North Carolina?
The biggest deal is everybody always all the schools that was recruiting me was telling me the ball's in your hand. You're gonna run the show as soon as you get there. And at Carolina, it was just different. It was more like you're gonna have to earn a spot. You're gonna have to compete for it. Uh, I know you're a McDonald's All American, but Dean Swift used to tell us, "I got 8 more on my team that you have to compete against." So it was like I'm thinking as a McDonald's guys coming out of New York City, with that attitude and that grit. I'm looking at Coach Smith like, oh, I need to come here just to first of all just to prove you wrong that I can
Right.
come in and play right away and compete for the spot, but just for the challenge of it. I think that was a big deal for me. I didn't want things just handed to me. I wanted the challenge of this competing for the spot and showing that, hey, I earned it instead of just like, hey, even though if I play good or bad, they might still play me, but they'll sit me down.
Right.
So that kind of piqued my interest, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want nothing handed to me, and like I said, I always want to work for what I earned and what I should deserve. So that was my biggest deal of going to Carolina.
Well, I kind of want you to elaborate on that, man, because we're in an era now where you know kids at young ages, before they even hit high school, as competitive AAU's gotten and all these shoe teams and everything that's gotten, kids are being promised stuff at young ages. And so to hear you say that you chose a school that actually went against that grain of promising you something,
Hmm.
kind of speak to today's kid, like the value of going somewhere where you knew coming in that nothing was going to be handed to you. How did that make you better, not just in terms of competitiveness, but mentally?
Yeah, I think the thing with nowadays these kids, like I said, they're not just the kids; it's the parents too. The parents kind of just
Right,
hand it to them too. Whatever
right,
they want, they kind of just get it. So it's kind of that's what they expect. When they choose a school or listen to these coaches, and like sometimes you just got to be real with guys. Like they don't realize that when you go to a program or you go to a high school, that there other good players there too.
right.
And you go in there, and if I'm already telling you that, hey, I'm giving you the ball, but I know the guy I have there is pretty good too. You're gonna have to compete against him and beat him out. That's not fair to the other guy I have on the team.
Right.
Even though that you might be more talented sometimes, but sometimes talent, like I said, if talent don't work hard, what I'm saying, it gets beat out.
It gets down.
Most times. So like I said, just the mentality, especially when I was growing up, and I was just raised that way. My mom always made me earn my keep. My father always made me earn my keep. So, and all the teams I used to play with kind of just ingrained me like, hey, I have to work hard to get what I want.
Right.
So that's why my mentality was always like that. But nowadays it's kind of difficult because guys get handed the things so easily now that they don't have to work for it.
Right.
And everybody wants to build that brand.
Right.
Everybody's all about their brand. I gotta look good. I gotta get in there right away. But if you put in the hard work and you compete for it and you beat guys out, it's a whole different deal. I think you feel better as a kid or as a man better that you actually earned it instead of like, man, I had it from day one. I know I didn't have to work for it. So
Right.
then once you get it, now you got to maintain it.
Keep.
Yeah, that's
Right.
that's even harder because
Right.
you're gonna have people coming at you
Right.
every day, all day. So that's another deal. So I always just took pride. Like if I stepped on the court, I know that you're gonna have to really take my spot by really. You have to be better
Right.
because I worked for this, and I'm gonna make you compete and go against me so hard that you're gonna have to be just out talent me and out compete me just to take over my spot.
Right. Now you played in the ACC, of course, and you played against some good guards, and Bob Hurley, and now I think Kenny left. Kenny left the
I,
year you came.
I played Kenny 1 year.
1 year, right? Yeah,
Just a 1 year.
and
He left a sophomore after his sophomore year.
right, yeah. So you was 1 year against him, and I think John Crotty and Corciani, them guys.
Cronny
Um,
up, Byron Ice up,
right, yeah.
up.
But,
Randolph
but
Childress.
yeah, oh yeah, forgot about him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I played against. But once Kenny left, I played against Travis Best,
right.
Corey Alexander at Virginia too. Once Crotty left, another
Solid.
tough one.
Yeah,
Chris Whitney at Clemson, tough.
right, right,
Another guy that's been in the league. So I played against a lot of great guards in the ACC.
right. Day in, day out. With no nights off.
No, not at all. You think it was a night off? It was they and you Carolina too, so they're gonna come at you.
Right,
So it don't matter who you play against. They say Carolina on your chest, that you're gonna get their best effort.
right, right. They showing some highlights of Carolina right there.
The little
I know that brings back some memories.
oh for sure, for sure.
So listen, coach. You 1993 championship game. Of course, you know, all the attention and everything is Fab Five and Chris Webber and those guys. Um, what was your mentality? Not just the team, but going up against Jalen Rose and that crew. What was your mentality going into that game? And I know you didn't fear them coming out of the ACC and coming out of New York. I know you didn't fear them personally, but what about the persona and just the aura of that whole machine the Fab Five had created?
Man, it was like a dream of like we was waiting all day. Like, could you play late at night at 9 p.m.
Right,
and just the anticipation, all these people in the news saying Fab Five's gonna win. Then you got some people say Carolina's gonna win, but people never brought up that we actually played Michigan in the Rainbow Classic in the Christmas time,
right,
and we lost to them on a buzzer shot by Jalen Rose on a tip in at the end of the game. So we wanted to play Michigan. That was a big deal for us. We wanted to play them because we felt like we should have won the game against them the last time. So, but the
right,
anticipation of the game, just sitting in your hotel room, just I think that's when you're nervous when you're just sitting there and
right,
just the anticipation and waiting all day, getting all the instructions, trying to get your rest, make sure you get your treatment, and but once the ball goes up, it's basketball then.
this is basketball. Yeah,
But yeah, all the butterflies is gone. It's like it's time to play. It's just time to win the game. I think the biggest thing with us that we prepared for this all year for this. So we felt
right,
like we belonged there. We was ready for it. We was prepared. We thought Coach Smith had us so locked in that hey, we a pretty good team and we deserve to be here. So let's go out there and win it. And
right,
uh and the key and I think the biggest thing, like, hey, we only lost 4 games that year, so people don't realize like we were pretty good too.
right, right,
you know,
right, right. And I think you scored the first basket of that game.
I
I
did,
don't know if yeah, you
I
scored the
did.
first basket of that game, and because the game kind of started off a little shaky, kind of a little nervous. It looked like,
Yep,
um, and you scored the first basket, and then you guys actually went up, I think by like about 10, and then they came back and took the lead and kind of went back and forth. At what point in that game, did you feel like um, you knew that this was a game that you could take, but that because there was a lot of substitutions in that game. You know what I mean? It was like
right.
a lot of just weird lineups. I mean, Michigan had some weird lineups that they put out there that I hadn't seen before, and there was a lot of early substitutions fast. Weber came out of the game real early, fast. Um, what was there a point in the game where you felt like, man, my leadership is going to really have to kick in here for us to settle down and us to get into like an offensive rhythm? Because with all the substitutions, it seemed like it was going to be hard for you guys to get into a rhythm.
Yeah, I think we were used to all the substitution for us because that
That's
was
true. That's true.
that was Coach Smith's deal of like if he thinks you're tired, he'll sub you out. So his deal was if you didn't give out the tire signal and if you did get the tire signal, which with the fist up, you can come out. But when you was ready, you say, "Coach, I'm ready." He'll put you back in. But if he took you out, he'll put you in when he want to put you in. So
Right,
if you thought you were a little bit tired, you'd be like, "Oh, let me put the tire signal before he, so I could come back right back
right,
in." So so
right,
so it's a mindset for us. But that was that was our regular deal all year. How we substituted. Michigan probably was a little different because just the atmosphere, the national championship game.
right,
Guys are going hard. Guys really want it. This is the second time they've been there, so they really wanted it,
right,
and and they knew they were going against some tough competition because we already played against each other before. So
right,
they knew it wasn't going to be no easy thing, and I think it, they had to substitute because I think we wasn't prepared as much when they brought in Rob Pelinka
right.
that came
Three,
in and hit
back to
and
back
hit big
threes.
threes. Yeah,
Right,
so we was more focused on the Fab Five and what they do. But when he came off the bench and got them really rolling, hitting those threes, kind of really opened it up for him.
right, right. So now you played the national championship game. You're a national champion. You've been a parade high school parade All American, McDonald's All American, and now you finish your playing career at college. You go off and you play overseas and everything, and you get into the coaching game. How
Hmm.
has the effect of your high school coach Christ the King, and then also playing with Coach Smith and Coach Guthridge, um, how has that helped you in your journey as a coach?
I think I learned a lot from Coach Smith and Coach Guthridge because as a coaching standpoint, because I was basically the coach on the floor at Carolina.
Right,
I think that's why Coach Smith always wanted me to like coach right away because he felt like I had the mind for it, the mindset, and I said, Coach, especially after I was done playing at Carolina, I was like, I got a whole lot of playing left in me, but he really wanted me to come coach, but he did want me to play too.
he
But
wanted you to coach at Carolina.
well, he just wanted me to go into coaching. He just felt
Okay,
like when if I was done, you should go into coaching right away. And I
right,
wasn't in the mindset to coach at all. So it just happened after I was done playing, and uh and I kind of fell into it because went back to my high school, started giving back, working with those guys and making them better, and this kind of came natural. And the coach at the time at Christ the King just said, "Why don't you just sit on the bench and just be with the guys and go to games?" And that's where it all started.
right,
And I started to get the bug of coaching and started enjoying it, working with the guys every day in practice. So it was fun to me. It's like
right,
I was meant to do it. So, and now I'm here 10 years later,
right,
at a Power Five school, Washington State, and excited what I'm doing still.
right,
And I'm still learning myself.
right,
And I think that's the biggest thing. As long as I'm still learning, I'm happy with it. I love what I do. I'm happy with it. And like I said, I can learn from players. I can learn from other coaches and you just continue to learn, man, because the game has changed,
right,
and you got to evolve with it. And if you don't learn, you're gonna get pushed back. And I think now it's more of an analytic type
right,
deal,
right.
which you're learning more about that. So it's like
Mhm.
it just expands your mind, and I'm enjoying it.
Right. And talk about that, man, because you come from a legendary coach, man, and Coach Smith, and offenses now are more spread out.
Hmm.
Um, you don't see as much inside post play, and Carolina over the years is known for a lot of inside action, the high low stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and now the game, as you said, is spread out more. It's more spread. You got one of the Splash brothers that come out of Washington State, Clay Thompson.
Hmm.
Um, talk about the evolution of your coaching career from the different places that you've gone to and to where you're at now as associate head coach at Washington State.
Yeah, like you said, man. When I first started, it was more of a big man game. Always throwing the ball inside. It was inside out, and now the evolution that was at Carolina because we had true centers,
Right, right,
true big guys that were down in the post. Then actually playing in Europe, that's kind of when I kind of learned it was more like spread out, five guys, because Europeans are more fundamentally skilled in that aspect of it, and big to shoot more jump shots.
Right.
And that's where I kind of learned more about the bigs and more hybrid type that
Right.
can shoot and post up, but mostly they like to shoot. Uh, then when I got into high school, you always got guys that are not that big. So you start working with guys that's like 6'8", but they more perimeter guys.
Right.
That's when the Dirk Nowitzki started coming into play. Guys
Right.
like that, they just changed the game. Guys shooting threes and step backs and stuff like that. So, but my journey in my first coaching gig in college was Fordham University. I kind of started from the bottom, so I didn't get to go on the floor. I was a video guy,
Okay.
so learning experience there. Like I said, I came in, I had to learn the game. Even though I had a lot of knowledge about basketball and played it, but going to a college atmosphere, you know, some coaches like been there for a long time. They want you to start from the bottom, and I sacrificed that and say, hey, I'm going to learn from the bottom and to get to where I want to go. So
Right.
being a video coordinator was eye opening because I had no clue about video and cutting up film and making highlight tapes, and
Right.
it's a whole different deal. Trust me,
Right.
that's some serious grind work. I'll tell you
Right.
that.
Okay.
And then the next year, I ended up going to Monmouth with one of my former teammates that got the head coaching job, King Rice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know you know about
Carolina
him up in
guy.
this, yeah,
Yes, sir.
Carolina,
Yes,
up in
sir.
the Binghamton area, close to
Yes, sir.
Syracuse and stuff like
Yes, sir.
that. So great guy. I learned from him, and we had the same kind of philosophy because we both learned from Dean Smith. So, and I think I was a help to him because when he left college and I took over, the the coach Smith kind of led me in a different way. And like he said, I ain't used to do that in college. And I was
Right.
like, yeah, we changed it up a little bit.
Right.
So we kind of learned a lot and bumped heads and made each other better on a coaching standpoint at Monmouth for 3 years. Then after that, I went to the Ivy League to Columbia
Okay.
University.
Right.
And that move was different because the Ivy League, there's no scholarships.
Right.
So
Right.
I had to change my whole way of recruiting and how to get guys and guys with high academics.
Right.
It was a total difference that I had to really learn, man. And that's when the analytical part came because my head coach that I'm still with, Kyle Smith,
Right.
was very analytical. And I tell you the truth, I never watched so much film till I got to Columbia,
Wow.
and that was another learning experience. Like I said, film don't lie for
Yeah.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched so much film, man. And after Columbia, he got the head job at University of San Francisco. So I went out to the West Coast with him as well, man, for another 3 years. And he got the head job at Washington State now, going on my second year at Washington State, and to continue the success of what we've been doing and try to bring it to the Pac-12.
Right. Right. So now,
So,
speaking of Washington State, you guys 16-16 last year, and
mhm.
6-12 in the conference. What did you learn in that first year at Washington State, in that Pac-12 conference, that leaves you confident about what you got going on this year?
just the difference being in the Pac-12, man, is talent.
Right.
And you don't have to have 5 or 6 guys talented, but if you have a good core of 2 to 3 guys that's that are just as talented, you can compete. And now you just got to put your philosophy in place and
Right.
how you want to do things. And I think that was the biggest key in year one for us.
Mm-hmm.
That we had a group of guys that we haven't worked before that came from a program that they weren't winning in in a decade, so they wasn't used to like the way we were doing things.
Right.
So we had to like to restructure them the way they did things and
Right.
the way they moved, the way they footwork, they shot, a lot of
Right.
things that we thought was successful.
Right.
Just coming from all the stops that I've been at and been successful. That's why I'm at Washington State.
Right.
And mentally too. The mental
Mm-hmm.
part of the game of some guys is getting a different coach, they're gonna test you.
Right. Yeah.
You know what
Right.
I'm saying? You
Yeah.
already know they're gonna
Yeah.
test you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you gotta be firm in your beliefs and like, hey, look, guys, this is gonna work.
Right.
You just gotta trust us. And I think that's another learning experience, man. But played in the Pac-12, man, at that level is like it's where I played at. So like at that level, man, I'm just happy that now I can coach guys where I used to be too. And I think I get a better rep where I got because they know I played at that level.
Right,
So
right,
they
no doubt.
they can understand me. They can come to me and shoot me questions, and I can give them the feedback because
Right,
I played at the highest level and I won at that highest level in college.
right,
So
right.
so I get a
That gives
little
you
more I get a little more respect in
right.
that standpoint.
So real quick, we're going to wrap it up in a couple more questions,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna let you go. I know Carolina's big on family and the tradition of the
Hmm.
Carolina way. So, what aspects of that Carolina program and that family way and are you bringing to Washington State? And have you reached out to guys like Clay Thompson to come back and kind of produce that same thing at Washington State?
I think the biggest thing with us at Carolina, we always used to come back during the summers and teach the young guys
Right,
just to show the love that hey, we have pride in our program. We want our school to be good. So we'll come back and work with guys and teach them. And this is what we used to do. And like, I think Dean Smith started that a long, long ago. And I think the biggest thing, how we say family, like if I go to uh, Atlanta, you know, well, George Lynch used to be there. Like I can call George Lynch and we'll get together and have dinner
right,
or call Kenny Smith,
right, right.
even
Oh
guy
yeah,
that's way older than me and
right,
say, hey, I'm in town. Hey, and like right away they'll, hey, let's get together or meet me there, stuff like
right,
that. So
right,
it's like I think I don't think any other programs and people always ask us like how y'all so tight like that. It's just it's been structured since before I even got there.
right,
And so when I got there, I keep the tradition going.
right,
And when we keep the tradition going, I go back and so when I graduate, I go back and I teach the young guys, hey, this is what we used to do. And
right,
they keep it going. So it's like
right.
even and we had a big group chat on WhatsApp that we all different eras
Oh, I know that's
and,
crazy.
and talk ball and
I know
just
that's crazy.
yeah. So it's big. Like I said, we are really a family
Right,
and we support each other when we can and that's how it's supposed to be.
right,
And like we got to support each other, man. And we want our school to continue to be successful. And what Roy Williams doing there, we support him.
right.
We there for him. Anytime he needs us, we there for him. So and he's there for us too. We need something. So and I'm trying to bring that to Washington State, like bring Clay Thompson back. Like we brought him back to retire his jersey
Okay.
and stuff like that. And guys like Aaron Bain met us in Phoenix when we went out there to play Arizona State, just to talk to our guys and just he want his program to be good. And I
Right,
think that's it's just a start.
right,
And once it can get a little better and get more guys that have success and they leave, everybody wants to come back to their old school and see what's
right,
happening
right,
and see they old school thrive. So
right.
and I talked to a lot of guys like Craig Elo that went to Washington State.
Right.
I know some of the young guys ain't gonna know who Craig
Oh
Elo
man,
is, but
they see the
played
clip
in
every day, but they don't know it's him.
yeah, exactly.
Jordan hit the shot.
Exactly. Yep. So and he's the radio personality for Washington State. So I
Right,
get to chat with him and guys old coaches like George Raveling came back.
right. Oh yeah,
So it's like slowly in 1 year we got all these guys to come back and hopefully it continues. So anywhere we go when we play conference wise, we have a lot of alumni that reaches out and always want to reach out to the team and talk. So that's the beginning of the stages of trying to make it a family type atmosphere at Washington State.
well, listen, Coach, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. You've been very, very gracious with your time. Wish you much success there at Washington State in your journey as a coach in the Pac-12. And you know, you shouldn't give me your cell phone number, Coach, 'cause I'm gonna hit you up for some stuff, man. I'm trying to learn too, man. I'm trying to
Right,
learn,
right.
man. But I gotta ask you this, and I know you're gonna be unbiased as you possibly can be.
Mhm,
The biggest debate that's out there, you know, LeBron and Mike. You being a
mhm.
Carolina guy, I know it may be hard for you to be unbiased, but as unbiased as you can, having seen, you know, um, Jordan's career and LeBron's career.
Mhm.
In your opinion, who's the better player and why?
Woo! Try not to be biased, but woo, I'm just gonna go with how I feel about it because
Right,
I'm a Jordan guy, and I hate when people say these things too. Like I'm not down in LeBron,
right, exactly.
you know. I'm not. LeBron's a phenomenal player.
No doubt about
Love his game. He, like I said, he's more of a point guard than list him as a small forward, stuff
it.
like
Right.
that. But I'm more of a Jordan guy. And to tell you the truth, and I didn't like Jordan because I'm a Knicks fan.
Me too, baby.
Yeah, I'm a Knicks fan because I hated when he torched my Knicks.
Oh man.
You know, I wasn't a big fan, even though he was a Carolina guy. I was like, oh, come on, Jordan, like stop doing this to my Knicks. But
Yeah.
just the standpoint of me being around Jordan and him coming back to Carolina and the way he works and the way he attacks the game kind of make me more of a Jordan guy. You know, I haven't been around LeBron, and LeBron probably the best worker, and I've seen tape and people tell me, but I've been around Jordan,
Right.
and I know how he is, and like he don't like to lose.
Right.
It could be a pickup, it could be cards, it could be whatever.
Right.
Just the mentality of like I'm here to win every time. I'm not here to when we step on the court. I'm not your friend. You know, I'm just the killer mentality that everybody hears. You know, all the time, but it's definitely a mentality that he has all day. And I think the last dance kind of showed him that he find any motivation
Right.
to go out there to do what he does. Like
Right.
no one else does that, maybe besides Kobe did. You know,
Right.
rest in peace to Kobe.
Right.
But I'm more of a Jordan guy, man, and LeBron is great. Don't get me wrong. I
No
feel
doubt.
like I don't want to say LeBron's like Magic, but he's more of a big point guard, sees the floor, great vision, knowledge of the game. You know, he can defend any position. It's like he's phenomenal.
Right.
But it's just I'm more the mentality of Jordan and
Right.
just like I said, winning of all costs. I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to win, and I'm going to try to destroy you when I'm trying to win too.
Right.
So
Got you. Got you. Appreciate it, Coach. Listen, um, uh, this is 100 yards of football, sports talk radio. We've been joined today by Derek Phelps, 1990 grade All-American, McDonald's All-American, starting point guard for the University of North Carolina Tar Heels. Now the associate head coach of Washington State University. Coach, hypothetically, I got a 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid. He's thinking about where he wants to go to college. Why should I pick Washington State?
I think the first deal for Washington State is you're going to play in the Pac-12. You're going to play against a lot of pros in that league for sure. And I think for Washington State is different. It's not going to be glorified as like all the other teams in the conference, but it's the place that you're gonna you're gonna work hard. You got all the facilities you need. It's a college town. They love you, and I think you're just gonna go there and just you're gonna have to be good. You know, guys like Klay Thompson, Aaron Bain, the recent guys. You know, went there and made a name for themselves that nobody else was gonna give them a chance at Washington State, man. And I just think we just got something different that everybody else had. It's gonna keep you focused. We don't have no city life that you're gonna go downtown and hang out. It's a straight college town, and it's just everywhere you go, you're gonna hear "Go Cougs." I don't care
Right.
where you could be in Atlanta, you could be in New York, and if I wear a Washington State shirt, somebody's gonna say "Go Cougs,"
Okay.
which
Okay.
I learned my first year there. So
Right.
they have a big support and a big fan base.
Right.
So, and it kind of helps when you got great players like Klay Thompson to help lead that charge to keep it going.
Well, Coach, man, thanks again, once again, Coach. This is Coach Derek Phelps, Associate Head Coach of Washington State University. Appreciate you taking the time out with us, Coach, man. One of the greatest, nicest guys in the game today. So really appreciate that, Coach. This is 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host, Bryan Spencer. We'll be back again with you next week. And until next week, life is not important except the impact it has on other people's lives. So go out and impact somebody's life in a positive way. Thanks again.